Then we got to talk about Dr. King's killing 3 years later. And this was the Prince of Peace, right? Has anybody ever read the book An Act of State by William Pepper? Or Orders to Kill by William Pepper? Orders to Kill was the first book. An Act of State is the second. I recommend that you read An Act of State because most of what was in Orders to Kill is in An Act of State. William Pepper, the King family attorney who sued the FBI and CIA, proven beyond a shadow of a doubt in court they won, even though they didn't show it on CNN, proved that it was the government that killed Malcolm and not James Earl Ray. That killed King and not James Earl Ray. They won the case, y'all. They won the case. C-SPAN didn't talk about it. The news didn't. Nobody told you that the government was proven to have killed Dr. King by a white lawyer. He wrote a book where he interviewed the people involved. Do you know that the U.S. Army Green Berets was the backup shooters? They were stationed across the roof. They thought they was the main shooters, but they was the backup. They had the damn army ready to take out Dr. King, your government that you trust and love so much. Who did the FBI hire to kill King? The Tennessee Mafia. The actual gunman was a Hispanic. I forget his name, but you'll read it in the book. Who helped orchestrate Dr. King's assassination? The Ku Klux Klan of Tennessee. Talking about they do surveillance over hate groups when you're working with the hate groups. What about the fact that the brothers in King's entourage saw somebody jump down, come out the building and go running, nobody went after him? Why not? Because it was an inside job. Jesse Jackson was on the ground when King got shot. He runs up the steps and wiped Dr. King's blood on his body. Who does that? Some of y'all saying, are you sure? Read the book. Don't believe nothing I told y'all tonight. I know I'm based on facts, but I need you to know it for yourself. Why did Messy Jesse rub Dr. King's blood on his body and then point away from where the shots came from? Can I go a little bit deeper? When you read the book, you're going to find that the Green Berets said that they was told that friendlies would have on no tie on the day of the killing. Jesse didn't have on a tie. How did the Green Berets know that people who were not to be shot were not wearing ties unless there was people in Dr. King's entourage, including Jesse Jackson, who was working for the FBI? What happened to Jesse Jackson's career right after King died? He became the HNIC. Not only that, did you know that there was a certain minister in King's entourage that picked out the tie he wore that day? I wear ties for a living. Ain't no other man coming to pick out my tie. Unless he's working with the people who shooting me and need to make sure I got on a certain tie so they know not to hit him. And then the same pastor who gave Dr. King his tie to wear for the morning walked away from Dr. King. And as soon as he turned to leave King, he was shot on the balcony. How about Dr. King wasn't even going to go out on the balcony, but somebody told him to come on out and have a smoke? How about there was a security detail that was sent to protect Dr. King at the Devon Lorraine Hotel, and Jesse Jackson told them, never mind, y'all can be relieved. How about Dr. King was supposed to be staying in the basement of the hotel, but somebody from the Southern Christian Leadership Conference called the hotel before he got back after he made his famous mountaintop speech and transferred his room upstairs? Who was working against Dr. King in his own office back in Georgia? One of those pimping pastors who was so mad at King because he was getting all the attention and then turned the church into a revolutionary force instead of a let's just get ready for heaven force. Because you know he had to fight the elders in the church. They couldn't stand Dr. King because he said we can't just sit here and talk about Jesus and not work. Dr. King was not a nationalist, but I respect him. He went to Marcus Garvey's gravesite in Jamaica right after Malcolm died, before he was killed. And he said Marcus Garvey was the first significant leader to organize black people in America. And people around King said that when he came back to America after visiting Mr. Garvey in Jamaica, his grave, they said he started giving speeches like Garvey. And that's where the CIA and FBI moved in on King. You got to read King's speeches the last year of his life. See, the white man handpicked speeches for y'all to read. When you get a Dr. King CD, he handpicked I Have a Dream, Mountaintop. He don't give you the good stuff. He don't give you that Marcus Garvey Dr. King. He give you King the Integrationist. That's why you got to get the anthology of all of King's speeches and read the ones at the last year. Stop being lazy. Read that last year of Dr. King. You would think you're reading Marcus Garvey or Malcolm. And why was the police Black cops stationed in buildings across the way from King, relieved of their duty. They was told to get off post. They said, no, we defending Dr. King. We got to keep a watch out. We said, go home. Here's a man who preached peace, and look what they did. What did Marcus Garvey say? Some of us going to die. You get up to do this work, you're going to die. But he said, that ain't the problem, that you might die. The problem is we ain't got nobody to replace you. Dr. King died in 1968. He had his faults. Dr. King wasn't perfect, but he was damn sure committed, at least in the final years. Who got up to take King's place after he died? Nobody. Look at us, y'all. What, we 45 years after King? You ain't get nobody significant yet. Who, Jesse? Al? Who you got? 45 years and you still ain't get a replacement for King. 50 years you ain't get a replacement for Malcolm. Damn near 100 years you ain't get a replacement for Garvey. 50 years you ain't get a replacement for Medgar Evers, who we always conveniently leave out of the discussion. He was the first one to do it. Marcus Garvey said, leaders must die, but you must have others to replace them. The problem with the black community is we don't groom our next generation of leaders. We go to church and pray for the Christ to send us one. And then the FBI sends you one. If you want leaders, you got to make them. That's why in my school, we're going to train them in leadership. They're going to master the tactics of COINTELPRO. You got to make leaders. You don't wish for them. You don't pray for them. That's why you don't get none, because you ain't manufacturing leaders. You got to have black men who are, black boys who are raised from childhood, knowing that they might got to pay the ultimate sacrifice for their people. Malcolm X. What did Hoover say in his directive to the FBI officers? We must prevent the rise of a black messiah who could unify and electrify. Unify. Unity. White man is scared of black unity.